What I've got for you today is supposed to be an amazing match of StarCraft 2. It was recently played during the round of 8 of the GSL Codes. It's a Zerg versus Terran, a best of 3. We're in the top left-hand corner. We have none other than Rogue, one of the very best ZVT players in the world. And his opponent, by far the most creative player at the highest level. We're looking at GuMiho's main command center. I think he can really get that title now, right? With Dark off to, well, do his mandatory military service, GuMiho at the very least is a man who is not afraid to go ahead and shake up the meta. Now, I haven't seen these games, but from what I've heard, and a bunch of you have recommended it to me, so this particular series, from what I've heard, we are gonna get some mass battlecruiser strategies. Which is something that is rarely done, especially when it comes to high-level StarCraft 2 tournaments. We see them every once in a while in like a weekly cup, when the Terrans just sort of having fun, and they're playing for a couple $100 here and there. Well, yeah, sometimes Terrans will mix them in, but most of the time when it comes to the important events, like for example the GSL, you play your serious build orders and you don't really risk it with something that can be memed pretty easily. Now GuMiho, I mean, if I were to make a guess, right, if any Terran player at the highest level would figure out a way to actually make battlecruisers viable, I would always guess it is GuMiho, so I'm very excited for it. Not entirely sure exactly how we can get there. So the problem with battlecruisers is that they're really, really expensive, and they take forever to produce. And generally speaking, by the time that you can get a battlecruiser out, the opponent will have multiple answers for it already. So, for example, if you rush a battlecruiser across the map, you will have to generally sacrifice one of your expansions for it, because a battlecruiser is 400 minerals, which is the same cost as a command center. And then when you teleport it across the map, for example, there will usually be like 3-4 queens waiting for you at bare minimum, with a couple more running from the other bases. It just isn't really a unit, unless you can really catch the opponent off guard, but it's just not really a unit that you can cheese at a very high level. There were some build orders a few years ago, where Terrans would rush out a double battlecruiser build. Extremely uncommon. I haven't seen it in 2025 yet. I'm not exactly sure what to expect here from Gumi, and if that's going to be the variation, we'll see. I don't even know if it's going to be in this game. I mean, this is a best of 3 series after all, so we'll have to find out. But yeah, battlecruisers in general are a little bit difficult, right? So I think there are opportunities for like a late game battlecruiser switch, especially if you start off with some Terran mech. Terran mech in general, though, not very popular at all. We do see some Cyclone play these days, and Cyclone Hellion, I guess, can be quite good. Cyclone Hellion into Banshee can be quite good. But then, battlecruisers? I mean, if you are already making a load of Banshees, maybe that's a transition you can make, but a single battlecruiser in the late game isn't going to do much, so you kind of need to make a whole lot of them. Anyways, we'll have to see. That's just my thoughts right now as far as battlecruisers go. It's one of my absolute favorite units in the game. But we rarely see it at the highest level, because players at the highest level are really good at the game. Yeah, that's a bit of a theme you'll notice. Good players are really good at the game. Alright, so what exactly do we have? We've got a bunch of, well, it's a 1-1-1 here ultimately for Gumi. No third command center yet. So we have a barracks into a factory into a starport. We will see the switcheroo. This is looking like Hellion Banshee to me. Should be a good old Banshee. Yeah. Cloaking Field immediately gets queued up as well, and GuMiho is indeed going to be starting off pretty aggressively. The weird thing about this, I guess, if we compare it to the most gold standard build orders that Terrans like to go for these days, is that he made this starport before building up a third command center. Generally speaking, you build up the third command center before you go for the starport. Oh, Reaper Grenade. He tried to get fancy. He tried to boop the queen out of position, but the grenade only booped the Hellions there, and it wasn't in range of the queen. We have a bit of a weird start here as well for Rogue, though. He's opening 2 base, quick lair, quick Roach Warren, and then a delayed third. Obviously, he knows he's playing against Gumi. Even though Gumi is somebody who does like to mix it up, he is, at least for most of the series that he plays at the highest level, when he plays in a serious tournament, he is somebody that likes to play just mostly standard. Extra gas is going down, though, before any additional production structures here for the Gumi God. Rogue is going to see this immediately, and this immediately sets alarm bells off to a Zerg player, because you don't need this much gas early on. Yeah, and with the gas guys are spotted, okay, factories begin underneath vision right there of the Overseer. But Rogue already had pieced the puzzle together. We have a Terran mech start. Now, the map is Maganatha, because we do have the Banshee going in. Getting a bunch of kills, not bad. This is, in my mind at the very least, the biggest map in the current map pool. I don't know if it is in absolute size, but the rush distance is extremely long. There's a lot of bases you can acquire. And if you want to sit back a little bit, this is an excellent map to go ahead and do so. GuMiho, though, not really getting a lot of value here out of Zerg. I mean, 7 drones was pretty good, right? But this was a very quick cloaked Banshee. And he did delay his third command center for quite a while there. It's not a terrible start, of course, for Terran, but you didn't really slow down the Zerg that much. Like, you slowed down yourself more than you have slowed down the Zerg, in my mind. Still, though, Rogue should not have taken those drone losses. He could have much easier... Well, he could have just defended against it if he decided to make a blind Spore Crawler, right? He decided to go quick lair, so he probably assumed he was going to just be safe with an Overseer. Not quite the case. Made the game a little bit more messy than it needed to. And in a way, GuMiho got a little bit lucky. Anyway. This will likely be a pretty passive beginning, though, of the mid-game here. GuMiho is not going for your more common, the more conventional Terran mech style. So, historically in StarCraft 2, we've had like 2 flavors of Terran mech. We've had what we call Battle Mech, which is this Hellion Cyclone Banshee type of unit composition. It's basically like the Marine Marauder equivalent, but then with, well, vehicles, right? And a couple of capital ships and all that sometimes, but... And then besides that, we also have the vanilla mech style, which is the much more traditional approach. So generally, that is going to be something like Hellion Siege Tank. Sometimes you mix in a bunch of Thors as well. But usually, it's the much more slow-moving, the much more passive approach. It seems like GuMiho is opting for that one. We don't really see it much anymore in 2025. Already, though, Rogue is ready to bring the law to the other side of the map. This is a good old vanilla mech opener going up against Roach Hydra. This could be a game straight from like 2011. It's very funny how both players have decided to go for these very old school unit compositions. Command Center gets cancelled over here at the front. No way to save that. Hydra's trying to see if they can potentially wedge themselves in between some of these structures, but they end up taking a ton of splash damage. And those siege tanks are having a grand old time. There is detection available now, but the Hydras have already been killed by the tanks. And that attack was no good for Rogue. Losing a whole lot there and not really gaining a bunch of advantage. Look at that. He only really killed like 6 Hellbats there in a bunker. The main limiting resource here as a Terran mech player is definitely gas. Hellbats only cost minerals, so that is a trade that GuMiho will make any day of the week. Who is now going to be celebrating this with a bunch of additional command centers. Obviously, he had to cancel one just now, so maybe that is an advantage that Rogue managed to create for himself. But Rogue doesn't yet have a 4th base of his own. So, Command Center 4 and 5 are coming up before the Zerg started up a 4th. Hive right now also on the production tab, though, for Rogue. Little Roach run by, but good detection here. Good spotter barracks. Making sure that he is not going to be caught off guard. And already, the SimCity is looking really nice. So now we're going to go, by the way, into what seems to be... very interesting follow-up. Now we're going to go into the Cyclone follow-up. So 4 additional factories are building. GuMiho is doing something weird here. His entire strategy of his is a little bit funky. But I think it's working out. Even though this is not something we normally see. Got the +1 happening as well inside of the armory. Second armory is just now about to finish. Cyclone upgrade also coming in clutch, of course. That's going to make the lock-on a little bit better. Blue flame coming. Okay. Usually the biggest scary thing that you deal with as a Terran mech player is maxing out. So, or mexing? Okay, all right. Maxing out. It's not easily done. You need to get your 4 bases up at minimum to properly pull it off. But getting up to the maxed out state is very, very difficult. He's already building up a load of command centers, though. Yeah. Okay, so Rogue is going to go for a much more reliable weapon. We're going to go into a whole load of Vipers. Now, of course, they require a Hive. But they're fantastic against everything Terran mech. Against flying units, they can use... Well, obviously, the Parasitic Bomb can be incredibly nice. Against the ground units, you can Abduct, you can Blinding Cloud. Vipers really are your main weapon of choice as a Zerg player against Terran mech. But so far, I'm not really liking Rogue's chances all too much. He's really forced to slow the game down a bunch, and that does mean that GuMiho is going to be able to get to that maxed out state. As scary as it is, with relative ease. GuMiho is tightening up some of these choke points, making it even more difficult for the Zerg to engage. But it seems like after that, well, early game fiasco, right, with the Roach Hydra push just not achieving much, Rogue has decided to play this completely differently. Now against Buyout Terran, Rogue likes to go Mass Overseer, Mass Nidus Worm. We don't have any of that here yet. Alternatively, Zerg can also play Swarm Hosts. Swarm Hosts are also quite strong against this type of army. But already, this is a very strange push now that GuMiho is setting up across the map. Yeah, look at that. So this is right outside of his 4th. And he can just sort of start slow creeping his way forward with these mech units. He just needs to be careful of the Vipers, I guess, because they can easily get abducted. I would always love, as we have 3 starports coming up, I would always love to see a transition here towards Ghosts. I think Ghosts are really good. Anyways, that's not usually what we see. These abductions, though, are amazing. So every single one of these abductions, yep, ended up killing something. Some corrosive balls go down too, and this is the type of engagement that Rogue needs. Off of the back of those Vipers, when they have energy, the abductions are so freaking scary. That's why Ghosts are really nice, right? So, with Bioterran, Ghosts are able to, like, well, EMP, for example, or even snipe those units, and then the Vipers are nullified, and you don't really get nearly as much value as the Zerg. Now, here we go. GuMiho wants to extend his advantage here through this choke point some more, but it's risky. I like the slow biling here, as we have the Zerg making a transition right now towards Brute Lord. Brute Lord Viper, not a bad unit composition against this sort of thing, especially since there's not that many flying units at this point in time. But we did see a bunch of additional starports, and there are 4 of them right now. Tech labs have been built on top of them. Where do we go? We don't yet have a fusion core. Fusion core would not be a bad choice. Liberators, even Battlecruisers. All a possibility. Some nice abductions again, though. And every time those Vipers get energy, this Zerg army just gets scarier and scarier. It is important here for the Zerg not to, like, throw their units away. They're all low hit points, but yeah, you can push for a little bit longer. Bunch of the Zerg units going around the site. Banshee production is going to continue as Rogue suddenly finds himself on top of all of those Terran structures. And this is one of the difficult things about playing Terran mech. When the floodgates are open, since the units take so long to produce, even when you have a lot of resources in the bank, it's so difficult to actually defend. Because Rogue can just sort of get this snowball going and really just continuously hit. Those fights were really, really nice there for the Zerg. Now, I say that we are currently at 82 drones versus 89 SCVs. So in a very strange way, GuMiho taking the more cost-effective trades, he might be able to Zerg the Zerg. All of the Vipers, though, are dead. All of the Vipers have died. I think we should make a new batch of them. Instead, Rogue decides to go into Infestors. So maybe Infestor Brute Lord is going to be his, like, endgame composition if he can get there. But I really feel like the Vipers have been, well, phenomenally good. Either way, some scans go around right now. GuMiho tries to figure out how much money the opponent truly has. Always a question here as a Terran. Like, is this Zerg on, like, 60 drones? Or could it be 100? Well, 86 drones going up against 90 SCVs. We've got ourselves a fusion core cooking up. Keep in mind that fungal growth, of course, is also an extremely dangerous weapon. Fungal growth on a bunch of those cyclones is good. Nice snipe here, though. I love the Banshees. Banshees are such a strange transition to make at this point in the game. We rarely see it, but look at them. Specifically designed here to now apparently deal with those Infestors. And so far, they have already sniped, I think, 3 of them. Rogue, though, is going to be able to use that larva to his advantage and make a whole batch of them all in one go. So 6 additional ones are coming up. Looks like we had a fungal growth from the high ground. What about the Cyclones now, though? Those Cyclones are not easily dealt with as, yeah, Rogue forced to back up. Cyclones are such a scary transition. Additional Banshees have also shown here. And even though Rogue was on the other side of the map just about a minute ago, now it is GuMiho's turn to attack in the opposite location on the other side of the map. We do have some fungal growths going down, mostly just onto the Banshees, though, and the Banshees really aren't their primary target. We still get the Queens joining in here, too. They obviously can be used for anti-air. We have one accidental swarm host that happens. In the meantime, though, there is a little Zergling run by, and that has now killed 12 SCVs. And I wonder if that is going to force GuMiho to return back home. Sometimes the best defense is, of course, the offense. Those Zerglings putting in a lot of work. They have denied this base over here, too. Do we have a burrow? Yep, we certainly do. So he's going to burrow underneath, making it impossible for that command center to land. Battlecruiser production has begun. 3 of them in all in one go, and then also the +1 air weapons. Triple BC 15 minutes into the game. Neural Parasite coming up, though, for Rogue. How in the world do you deal with this sort of army as a Zerg player? Well, couple ways. Corruptors are a good choice. You can even technically go like Hydras and Microbial Shroud, but Neural Parasite, used from an Infestor, you can force some of those units to temporarily change sides. And obviously, well, Battlecruiser are going to be the primary target for that spell for sure. At this point, GuMiho doesn't know that that is a research that Rogue is going for, and he likely won't find out until there is a Neural Parasite already being used. Either way, he does get a snipe here on a base. Where's those Battlecruisers? There they are. Battlecruiser operational. As we have a bunch of Zerglings going around the site. A gajillion mules mining on that expansion. Looks like most of the Banshees over here have gone down. And this is turning into a phenomenal tug of war. The Battlecruisers now have to reveal themselves. This will be the first time that Rogue sees them and he immediately backs up. We have the tactical jump being used. He goes straight into the Zerg's main base. Neural Parasite, though, is ticking away just a few seconds. Normally, Zerg would only start up their Neural Parasite research right about right now. So GuMiho thinks that he's got some time to potentially go in. There is still a fight happening, though. It looks like GuMiho is thinking about maybe taking a gold base here. At the very least, that is a possibility. But what about the Neurals? What about the Neurals? There we go. Rogue comes in clutch. The Hive does fall. Tactical jump, though, is not available, and that means that these units are going to be killing themselves. We do have to see a repeated Neural. Yeah. They have a lot of armor. The +2 armor here is extremely strong. So these guys actually have a hard time dealing with one another. But as long as tactical jump is on cooldown, which it still will be for about another half minute or so, these BCs should slowly but surely chip away at one another. Now, obviously, there's still a fight going on as well. Inside of the, well, the rest of the map, right on the right side. Neurals, I mean, they're coming down, but this is using up all of the energy of the BCs. And if he can actually teleport them back home at some point... Okay, he decided to use it there. He put them on cooldown. So that was Rogue using the tactical jump there on the opponent's Battlecruisers, effectively making it impossible for them to escape. It takes so freaking long, though. Those armor upgrades, so incredibly powerful. One of the BCs did slip away. GuMiho actually has the opportunity to go back home if he wants it right now. What about this fight over here, though, with the choke point? Yamato Gun is researching. A Raven has come up. We have 5 additional siege tanks on the production tab, too. The reinforcing BCs have now shown up over here at the front. I wonder if using all of your Infestors on that was actually worth his while. Because he has 15 Infestors, but now most of them are pretty low in energy. And actually, 2 of the BCs managed to escape. Little hit squad in the far bottom left. Interference Matrix coming up too. Maybe it's actually best when you play this sort of Terran mech late game to not get attack upgrades. Ay, 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 ay. Rogue, despite, well, tagging the entire Battlecruiser fleet there initially, can't actually deal with them at all, and he is forced to tap out. Fantastic game of StarCraft 2. That was extremely entertaining. I love that after 15 years of active competition, you kind of would imagine that the game is figured out, right? That we have strategies that are just the best, and then, well, the players just know how to execute them perfectly, but that is not quite the case. I mean, even chess is technically a solved game, right? But chess also still gets new things, because players just get better over time, and obviously StarCraft 2 has a lot more moving parts than a game of chess does, so you'll have to see it. Yeah. Sometimes it does kind of feel, especially when the best players keep facing off against each other, that the meta can be a bit stale. But I think the game that we just watched, I mean, it shows us that there is still a lot of unexplored territory, even though players have been using the same dozen or so units for, well, a decade plus at this point. There is still more that you can do with them. Now we find ourselves on ley lines. Certainly a bit of a different map, but also definitely one where you can go for a slower approach if you want to. If GuMiho wants to play a repeat, I don't believe it would be impossible for him. Anyway, you of course started off with a low ground wall last game around, but that wasn't a double barrack start. That was really just a low ground wall for giggles. Didn't really do too much. Obviously, you can use it to defend and make the base defense a little bit difficult to scout as well, for example, from the opponent, right? Because you can't really run a Zergling in. But in general, just because he's starting off over here on the high ground, it does not mean that he doesn't want to go for the exact same build. Either way, barracks into command center, nothing out of the ordinary there. We've got ourselves a hatchery into a gas geyser, into a spawning pool for Rogue. Also, of course, the gold standard. Now, Rogue in the previous game stuck around on 2 bases for a long time. That is something pretty uncommon. I think it can be really good, especially if you can keep the opponent guessing. The main scary things, right, that a Zerg player can do on 2 bases would be like a quick lair into quick Mutas, quick lair into quick Nidus Worm. You could go quick lair into like, I don't know, quick Queen Drop, something like that. I feel like as soon as a Terran player sees, oh, it's quick lair into Roach Hydra, they'll be they'll be pretty content with that, you know? Like, out of all the strategies that Zergs can go for, that is not that terrifying to deal with. At least you don't have to be super prepared for anything really weird. If you're not prepared against Mutas, you're in a world of trouble. Anyway, it's nice to see, though, because I think actually in a late game scenario... What? Really, Rogue? Oh, Rogue is trying to sell, okay. Huh. I think in a late game, bio versus regular Zerg type of match, right? I think Rogue is favored. Rogue's late game is phenomenal. In this instance, especially after losing to the Reaper now, what is going through GuMiho's mind? So what has GuMiho seen? A 2-base opener, just like he played against in the previous game. He checked this 3rd base option, he checked the alternative 3rd base option. Nothing there. Rogue has decided to take a base further south. This means that GuMiho is completely in the dark and may actually over-defend. Because there's a good chance that GuMiho is now making the assumption that he's going up against something, well, that I just mentioned, right? Because he may imagine here that it's a 2-base Zerg opener. It's really the only thing that he knows. Unless the Hellions can scout out what he's going up against. This could get really funky. I quite like this. Rogue does need to be careful, though, with transferring drones to this expansion, because if he just sends them from the natural and the main base, GuMiho is just going to have to see one of them, and then suddenly this base is very disjointed from the rest. Yeah, GuMiho is checking out all the 3rd base options. So you have this one, you have this one, you have that one up north. This one is very uncommon, but technically a possibility. GuMiho is just not even bothering checking over here, because why in their right mind would a Zerg player take their base all the way over there in the corner? Alright, Roach 1 come up here for the Zerg. I wouldn't be surprised if those Hellions make a bit of a YOLO run through the middle of the map in just a moment, as we have Rogue going in for a cheeky little counterattack. And this could actually deal so much damage, because the Hellions are now joining together on the other side of the map. Yeah, kill one Hellion, drive into the natural. There we go. Send in the boys. Hellions immediately have to go back home. In the meantime, Rogue is droning. Hellions are just about to show up, though. One line of fire. Not bad. Not bad, but still, a lot of lost mining time there, and 9 SCVs is nothing to scoff at. GuMiho is still under the assumption that the opponent is playing 2-base. Yeah, decides to go for a bunker in the main base now, because in his mind, this can probably be like a Nidus all-in, something like that. Instead, what we have is a lair just about to finish up. Scan reveals here that there's nothing! He's looking for a Spire, he's looking for a Nidus network. He doesn't see anything, because he hasn't seen the base in the far bottom right. I love this. So this is Rogue specifically countering GuMiho. This would be a pretty, well, terrible play against practically everybody out there. But now Rogue is giving his opponent a taste of his own medicine. +1 missile coming up together with a Hydro Den. So Rogue is ending up with a very similar thing as he did in the previous game. But look at GuMiho's economy. GuMiho is not adding on that many more workers. He's a little bit afraid of just about getting all in. The opponent in the meantime has like 50% more income than he does. That's a lot. So every minute that goes by, Rogue can just sort of chill. He is in no hurry. As long as he sees that the opponent is not taking a 3rd base, he does not need to go across. And that's exactly what he is looking for right now. Okay, we have a Hellbat drop. You don't hear me saying those words all too often. Very strange drop. Hellbats once upon a time. It's actually a little bit funky. So Hellbats can, of course, transform from a Hellion, right? And you can transform a Hellbat back into a Hellion, too. You can put 4 Hellions inside of a plane, but only 2 Hellbats. A little bit odd. Once upon a time, you could put 4 of them in there. And it turned out that dealing with 4 of those Hellions, or Hellbats rather, inside of your mineral line is a little bit difficult. In general, it's a very different follow-up here. But anyways, we've got ourselves good old factories added into the mix once more. GuMiho has decided that after whatever is going on the other side of the map, he is just gonna try and play this as if the game is normal, but he still has not seen this base. He scans now, sees that there's a 3rd base coming up. He still has not been able to put the pieces together. Rogue doesn't know if he's been able to get away with it all this time. But I think it's a pretty safe assumption. The scan over there did see some creep, but that creep is coming in from the left, not from the bottom. So we can't really figure it out that way. I think as Rogue now, you just max out. Yeah, you just keep this 3rd base occupied and you just try to max out. He's ultimately playing 3 base versus 2 base with a 4th hatchery coming up. If GuMiho believes he's effectively playing 2 base versus 2 base, he is going to be in for a nasty surprise when the Zerg player maxes, like, a long time before he will. And honestly, I don't believe at this rate that GuMiho is ever going to be able to max out. Ooh, one of the Vikings there does go down. Yeah, so GuMiho is not really urgently trying to take this 3rd base. He could easily do it. He could send these tanks down to the low ground, but he believes that this is bait. He believes that this army is only out here to maybe trick the Terran out of position. So he'll slowly, secure it with a bunch of new siege tanks showing up and a couple of Terran units inching in that direction, but this is not easily done. And in the meantime, look at the supply count, 192 versus 119. Brilliant game here by Rogue. Could have been an absolute disaster, and we all could have looked at this base and be like, haha, what a dumb decision, right? But when the Terran didn't see it with the Reaper early on, well, it's been an uphill battle ever since. Okay. The main question becomes, when does Rogue attack? Well, he's maxed out now, so you may as well. We've got ourselves an infestation pit coming. Overlord speed also cooking up, but I wonder if Rogue can just, like, sledgehammer his way straight through the center right now. That is a lot of siege tanks, though. 8 siege tanks set up. Hydra's in the front tanking the damage. Not really what I like to see. Maybe going a quicker hive here together with a bunch of Vipers would be good, but Rogue, he feels like he has an opportunity right now to end the game, and suddenly GuMiho is surprised by a maxed out Zerg army, and he is getting absolutely decimated. Sometimes StarCraft 2 is just a numbers game, and this time around, Rogue just has, after a very strategic game, the superior numbers. Yeah, brilliant game of StarCraft. I love this. This is the type of game that only makes sense after watching the first game of the series, right? This tells us the story of the series, but without game number 1, this would be a very odd one. But now, yeah, Rogue shows us why he is not to be underestimated. Alrighty, Tokamak, final game in this best of 3 series. A complete misread from GuMiho. He played that way too passively, assuming that there was a Zerg all-in underway, and when he finally realized that it wasn't, the opponent was already practically maxed out. Sweet little strategy there from Rogue, hiding a proxy base. I mean, it wasn't really even a proxy base, right? It didn't really feel like he was... I mean, it's just a 4th base taken as a 3rd. That's ultimately what it comes down to. Or maybe the 5th base taken as a 3rd. Because you do have a lot of expansion options there on that particular map. But it certainly was a nicely played strat there from Rogue. Hiding it to the best of his abilities. And he got the job done. Okay, so what do we have this time around? GuMiho opening up quick triple command center. So that means he has delayed the 2nd gas geyser. And he has delayed the starport as well. Let's see. Where do we go from here then? This is a much more conventional style for modern StarCraft. So it means that he is... Jimmy! What was that, bro? You don't have to attack the barracks. This is a much more conventional opener here for GuMiho. So triple CC into Hellion Banshee, for example, is the gold standard. GuMiho has decided to go for a quick second barracks. So this is triple CC into double Rex, meaning that he's going to get his Stimpak really nice and early. And he should be able to finish this up by about minute 5 or so. It means that you got the Stimpak upgrade done in case the opponent decides to go for a Roach attack or a Roach all-in or a Link Flood, something along those lines. But it does also mean that you don't have that map presence, right? So he's going to get a couple of Hellions out, so 4 of them in total. 2 couples of 2 Hellions. And then he's going to switch over to Factory with a Starport, more than likely. Or maybe the Barracks here, rather. And then we'll get the production going eventually. Make a new reactor for the Starport, pump out the 2 Medivacs at once. But it means that he is not going to have as much presence, but he will be able to go onto the other side of the map with a Medivac drop. So if the opponent once more wants to hide a strategy, for example, well, at the very least, GuMiho is going to have an easier time figuring that sort of thing out. For now, though, everything is very normal for Rogue. He does have a quick lair. Actually, scratch that. This is not normal for Rogue. Rogue, once more, opening up with a quick, a very quick lair as GuMiho almost drove into the bases. Okay, he does decide to commit. This is going to be costly, though, and he doesn't even see the spire that is currently building inside of the main. Excellent cleanup right there for Rogue. Losing only 5 Zerglings for 4 Hellions and a Reaper, and, well, maybe more importantly, all of the map presence. Seeing the Overseer, though, does mean right now for GuMiho that he knows he's playing against a quick lair. You can only make an Overseer with lair tech, and in a normal game, this would be the moment that Zerg begins the lair. So the Overseer wouldn't be out for several minutes still. But, I mean, scan in the main base. There we go. This is a costly scan, but because of the triple CC start, he can afford it. Could still be Nidus, right? Could still be Roaches, but now he's really figured out, okay, this is what I'm playing against. Do we cancel the Spire? Nope. It looks like we're playing good old Mutaling Bane. Mutaling Bane is a very uncommon strat these days, and I kind of miss it. I think Mutaling Bane is one of the most entertaining things to watch. Nice to see it making a comeback here in 2025. I've honestly only seen a handful of games in 2025 so far where players are going Mutaling Bane. This entire series is a treat, actually. Like, this entire series is very fun. Okay. So, mutas are coming. 9 of them all at one go. Baneling speed also on the production tab. Maybe +1 melee would not be a bad choice. The main problem, of course, is that melee and, well, flyer upgrades are gonna cost a bunch of gas. And Rogue is currently trying to spend all of his gas on Mutalisks. So this is not just one batch of mutas, not just like 6, 7, 8 mutas. He is just doubling down on the Mutalisk production for now. There is already Stimpak though. Combat shields just about to finish up. +1 infantry attacks also on the horizon here. So it does mean that there will be an answer for the Terran player to deal with these units, assuming he puts the Marines in the right spot. There is that moment where if you have enough mutas, you can actually deal so much damage. He decides to engage before Baneling speed is done. Oh, this is all very, very finicky, but it looks like Rogue just barely gets out ahead out of that fight. I wonder if he actually needed to really pick up those Marines there. I guess he was a little afraid of the Banelings, but they were not speedy Banes. Then again, as a Terran, you never know when the Baneling speed is going to finish. Generally, Zergs don't attack until Baneling speed is done, so it may be in GuMiho's mind the Banelings were just about to get their little roly-poly on. Okay. Nice attack, but not really the end of the world there for Terran at all, right? He lost a bunch of Marines, a handful of SCVs, but all very recoverable. GuMiho now has a scary army, though. 61 versus 65 army supply here in total. Not a lot of creep spread. 4th base now coming up. 4th base coming up in a section where there is some creep. If you would have taken it over here at the bottom, it would be an easy pick-off for Gumi. Fighting this type of army, though, from the Zerg player on creep is difficult. Rogue actively using those mutas the entire time. Really just trying to make sure that he picks up any of the units that are disjointed. He needs to be careful, though, because the mutas don't have a lot of HP. Love this. +2 has started up for the Terran. New bunker, or new barracks rather, will be coming up. Sensor tower also extremely useful. Okay. Mutas go around the site. Now we're at the number of Mutas, though. We have 16 of them in total, where they can actually start working on some of the absolutely critical structures here for Terran. So missile turrets, for example, can be sniped. Supply depots, engineering base, armories, all the rest of it. Even just a bunch of Marines are not necessarily going to cut it. And he doubles down. +1 air coming here for the Zerg. Now there is an opportunity for Terran to go into, for example, a Thor or two. Thors, Widow Mines, all of this is good. For now, though, Rogue is going to have full control of the map. There is a little Marine on the other side, scouting that indeed we have a new base coming up. What about this +1 armor research? Looks like a bunch of SCVs are going to pay the price, but GuMiho will keep the engineering bay alive. Drop in the meantime at the bottom of the map a couple of Widow Mines in the mix. One of the Widow Mines does not detonate. Both of them end up getting sniped, and this is now going to give Rogue all the information that he needs. I wouldn't mind seeing him go for the Overlord speed immediately, so he can get the Overseers in 2 control groups. One with the Mutas, one with the Lings and Banes. Now the missile turrets are going down, though. And this is one of those moments, right, where as a Terran, as he does finally kill a Muta, and he's killed 6 of them in total now, as a Terran player, you have to be careful that the floodgates don't accidentally open up here. Mass repair, still an opportunity. He just decides to go after the SCVs instead. I wonder if this is an overextension, though, right now, from the Terran, or from the Zerg player, rather, because he's busy on the other side of the map. Those Mutas are not controlled properly anymore. GuMiho may be losing a ton of resources at home and a bunch of important structures, but he also has killed newly building hatchery from the Zerg, and that was not a cancel. 14 SCVs down the drain. Still mostly just Ling Bane, though, here on creep. And Ling Bane is going to be pretty easy to micro, especially when there's no Widow Mines in the mix anymore. And even though a lot of the Mutas have died on the other side, 27 SCVs have gone down. Whew, what a game. APMs are going up. Both players trying to play a quick one. Yeah, so the Thor with Javelin missiles, extremely good. But at this point, there's not really that many Mutas anymore. I mean, not in the main army. Rogue purposefully not adding the newly made Mutas onto the same control group immediately, because if you rally them straight through the bases of the Terran, they just get picked off for free. So we are going to see a little Muta reinforcement here. 2 Thors coming up, all at the same time. Drilling Claws researching for the Widow Mines as well. +3 infantry attacks is not to be underestimated. Getting the tech lab here is big, though. That is Drilling Claws denied. One of the Thors is just about to pop. Don't clump up the Mutas too much. Okay, Javelin missiles get spotted. He immediately goes in for the magic box to try and split up those Mutas as much as possible. Still, though, Medevacs, pick it up immediately. What about the push over here? What about the push over there? What about the Ling run by over there? +3 does lift, but it burns down right before the SCV can begin repairing. Base over here gets denied as well. Suddenly, Rogue has picked up the pace. Just be faster, guys. Just play at 600 APM. Mutaling Bane suddenly looking a lot more viable then. Still, even though I like what Rogue has done so far in this game, denying those upgrades was absolutely critical, because otherwise this Terran army would be marching straight through the middle. And if GuMiho can focus all of his attention on splitting against Banelings, for example, he's gonna have a real opportunity at winning this game still. Even though he's turned it to a bit of a punching bag and he's lost a lot of resources throughout the game, this wasn't free for the Zerg whatsoever. Planetary finishing up there would be massive. Terran maxing out, though, would also be huge. And GuMiho is getting maybe both of those things done. What about the Banelings over here? Okay, last second split is good enough. Planetary will live. And you know what? Even though GuMiho has been struggling in this game, he has arrived where he wanted to. Zerg going into Hive now. I love this little counterattack from the Terran, denying the base again. There is a 5th hatch on the left side of the map. A much more difficult area for the Terran to push into. Still, though, I love that he's going right now. Muta's going in around the side. Double missile turret not yet finished. Thor is available, though. And the splash damage there is not to be underestimated. There's not really that many bio units here. He decides to just engage off creep, but that was costly for the Zerg player. A lot of gas spent right there onto the Banelings. Reinforcing Marines do show up. I think the Mutas may have to come home. He's just using them, though, to target fire down orbital commands. GuMiho busy trying to just snipe whatever he can here as the Marauders are working away at the hatchery itself. Planetary Fortress may be up, but the orbital command is down. That main base could have flown away. A couple of drones pulled away from their mineral line too, just to try and tank some of the damage. There is no missile turret at that newly made planetary, so GuMiho, I mean, he is going to end up losing that one too. Rogue is buying so much time right now at home. Even though these traits aren't particularly effective, it is practically impossible for GuMiho to manage everything at the same time. New banelings coming up. Okay, he decides to commit. There are some Widow Mines, though, and the Widow Mines, they can do a lot of splash damage. Muta's now joining in the main army once again. Here's the Medivacs. The Medivacs, oh, he sailed by them. Could have probably sniped one of them full of units. Rogue missing that small opportunity, but you know what? He killed 2 bases worth on the other side of the map, and he lost only one of his own. And even though he did take a lot of damage here, I think the next fight will be the game-deciding one. GuMiho still has a lot of minerals. He still has a lot of barracks too. He could probably spend it a little bit more diligently. Zerg decides to engage off creep. This is one of the ways that this can still go horribly wrong right here for the South Korean Zerg player. But I think the numbers are just in his advantage right now. No more Widow Mines anywhere. A lot of minerals for GuMiho though, but he can't spend them all. Imagine if in this final section of the game, those 2,000 minerals of his were actually spent on Marines. I mean, it's 50 minerals per Marine. I'm not even going to do the math. But that would make this late game army here for Gumi a hell of a lot scarier. Fantastic series. So game number 1, we had a Battlecruiser rush. Game number 2, we had that hidden expansion from Rogue. And in the third game, well, Rogue playing full Mutaling Bane, forcing Thors out of the opponent. Very fun series. I hope you enjoyed watching it. Now today I want to give a special shout out to all of the Patreon supporters. Special shout out, though, to the biggest patrons right over here on the right. Thank you to Shren, Rextor, Grimdy, BHC, Jacob, Cranlor, Agaring, Dustin, Strategist, Ballistical, Killman, Beinsterk, Papuch, Thort, Sysadmin. We have Andy TV, Echo Soldier, Nakul, Gavilan, CRX, Robert, Patrick, Doomhome, Brusik, Champ. We have Javo and Lucas. Thank you guys very much.